What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Motivated Motorsports. In this episode, we are going to be going through the plan for the S10 for this winter. Alright guys, so in this video, as you guys can probably already tell from the description, I'm going to be going through everything that I'm going to try to do to get this thing into the 10s. That is the goal. I have two main goals for next year for racing. To get this thing into the 10s and to bracket race for an entire season. That is going to be my two main goals for next year. Both I think are fairly doable. 10-second might be a little bit difficult, but I mean, go big or go home, right? So 10-second pass. I would like a mid 10-second pass, which I don't think it's going to happen, but even if I can get into the 10s anywhere, I'm going to be happy. So this video is just kind of be going over everything that I'm going to try to do in order to get this thing into the 10s. So I'm going to kind of go through it. I've kind of split it up into three different sections, kind of performance, weight reduction, and then kind of drivability and safety stuff. So basically through all the calculations that I've done, I've kind of figured out roughly how much weight I'm going to have to pull out of this thing and about how much horsepower I'm going to have to put in it with kind of the different changes, stuff like rear gear, torque converter, stall, all that kind of stuff. So with all the calculations that I've done and everything that I think I need, I have a good idea of what I need to do in order to be able to get there. So kind of basics, main thing for performance, if you guys don't know yet, this thing is running a stock 5.3 out of a truck. I think it's out of like an 01 or an 03 Tahoe. So very stock, never opened it up. I haven't even touched anything. I threw a new set of plugs at it, new intake gasket, and that was it. That's all I had to do to this thing to be able to get it to go 12.6s. So that's super cool. But with running that, the easiest thing for these things to gain a crap ton of power is to throw a cam at it. So that's going to be my main goal. First goal right off the bat for power and performance on this thing is going to be doing cam, push rods, valve springs, and then the trunnion upgrade. If you guys also don't know, these things are really bad about destroying the trunnion bearings, so the little bearings inside the rocker arms, and then it just blows those needle bearings apart, and then it spreads it all over your motor, and then you have a junk motor. So I'm going to be replacing those. With all those mods, I should be able to also raise up the rev limit. So right now you can crank it to roughly $6,000 before it starts yelling at you. With the new cam and valve springs that I want to run, I think I should be able to get it up closer to $7,000 or $7,500, hopefully. So those are kind of the major engine mods that I want to do to be able to get this thing to where I want to, or at least in the first round of stuff. Also, I want to put a limited slip and a rear gear in there. The rear gear that I have currently in there, I think I'm going through the traps at 4,500, maybe $5,000. So not anywhere where I need to be, especially if I'm going to be running a higher RPM band. So if I can get it up into the closer into the 7s or 7,500, that's all that room up at the top that I'm not using because of the rear gear. So I want to change the rear gear. The rear gear that I've selected should put me through the chaps roughly at 6,800 RPMs. So that should be good. I also want to change out the limited slip clutches that are in here. Ford makes a carbon fiber clutch set, and they also add in like a stronger spring to be able to help all that tighten up a lot more. It clicks in a lot faster to help you kind of keep gripped in the back end. I also wanted to kind of change out the water pump and kind of the air induction system and get it all plumbed to where it's actually pulling cold air instead of just pulling air from inside the engine bay. So that'll be some things that I also want to do. Main things for weight reduction are going to be shell out everything. So I want to shell out the bed, shell out the door, shell out the inner fenders, shell out everything that I can do to pull as much weight out of here as I can. I'm also going to be adding in a cage, which I'll talk about here in a second. So with that, I'm going to have to pull out the front windshield and the rear window. Since I'm going to be doing that, I might as well go ahead and replace them with polycarbonate. I'll also replace the doors, the door windows with polycarbonate. That should help me pull out a bunch of weight also. I also want to pull out the steering column because it weighs a ton, and I want to try to replace it with a lightweight racing steering column. And then obviously all of that will pull out the pedal box and all that big chunk of aluminum that's on the inside of there, which when we get to that point, I'll show you guys all of it. So that should be able to pull out a whole bunch of weight also for me. For drivability and safety, the main thing that's taken me so long to figure everything out on this is safety stuff. So everything that you have in here, depending on where, kind of what time slip you're running. So if you're running in the 10s or if you're running in the 11s or the 12s, you have different rules that you have to apply to. This car, I would like to get it into the 850s at some point. So I've kind of been playing with the rules and figuring out what I need to do at what stage. And if there is something such as welding in a roll bar is all I would really need to be able to do, I think, to be able to go into the 11s. And then you think you need just a basic cage to be able to get it into the 10s, either the 9s or the 10s. I can't remember right now. But since I want to run it into the 850s, I figure I'll just put an 850 cert cage in there so it's in there and I don't have to worry about it anymore. There's no cutting or re-welding or shaving off a whole bunch of paint and trying to repaint it to be able to get it in there. So I'll just put an 850 cage in there. With that, I'll also pull out the seats that are in there. That's going to do two things. That's going to save me a bunch of weight because I'll go to, I have a lightweight racing aluminum seat already for it that I can dump in there. So that's going to pull out a whole bunch of weight. It's also going to allow me to run 5-point harnesses, so I'll run those. I'm also going to try to change up the gauges and kind of gauge placement to be able to get that a little better for me for when I'm driving, to make me a little more consistent, to be able to bracket race a little better. I also want to kind of change the line lock button, where it's located and how it's mounted, to be able to help me, again, with drivability type stuff, to make me a little more consistent on stuff. Obviously, helmet, neck collar, maybe a fire suit will also be added in, kind of all in the first round. So that's kind of first round stuff. What I want to do right here, right now, that has to get done in the next 2 months. I think I've roughly, I should have right at basically 2 months. Yeah, the track here, I think, opens up right first weekend or second weekend in March. So I have basically right at 2 months to be able to get to that first testing day. And that first testing day is just an open testing too. Anybody can come out, you can run as many passes as you want. So I really want to get to that one so that way I can make as many passes as I can and get a good shakedown before the bracket racing starts, to be able to kind of have a good idea of where my IETs are going to be and kind of where I need to set my car up to be able to run good. So in the second round of stuff, again, I kind of have it split up into three things. So the performance side for the second round of stuff is going to be intake, throttle body, trans brake, and torque converter. All of those things, again, if I have time and I have money, they're going to happen. Obviously, they'll happen at some point. I just don't know if they're going to happen before that first initial run. Again, all those things are definitely things that I think are going to make me faster and make me, hit into the 10s. But it might not happen before that first race. So those things might be happening like March, April, May time-ish, depending on how much time and money I have. Weight reduction, kind of shell out the front radiator support or change it to an all-tube radiator support. Fuel cell, getting rid of the big gas tank that's in the back and just putting in a lightweight aluminum fuel cell in there. Front wheels and tires, hood, trying to get like a fiberglass hood for this thing. And then just some other odds and end things where I know I've kind of added in weight that I could redo it and pull out a bunch of weight. Shifter mount, master switch, clean up the wiring. I also kind of want to move the buttons from up on the roof line to maybe down next to me. It's really hard to be able to see with those blue buttons. It's pretty bright inside the cockpit. So once you get down track, especially once you get past the quarter-mile mark, into the shutdown zone, it's really dark down there and those lights really tend to blind you. And then, yeah, just some other, fire suit type stuff is kind of going to be on the second round. Third round is Hail Mary. So if I all of a sudden come into a massive amount of wealth, I win the lottery or something, or all of a sudden all this stuff takes way less time than I think it's going to, and all of a sudden I have a bunch of time left over. So that's kind of round three, kind of the Hail Mary last run stuff to try to get it, either safety stuff once I'm into the 10s or Hail Mary stuff to get me to the 10s. So that's going to be stuff like heads, rods, pistons, getting forged rods and pistons, maybe adding a turbo to it. I really want to do this NA. So I should have said that towards the beginning of the video. I really want to do this NA. I really want to get into the 10s NA. So that way when I add the turbo, I know I should be able to dump myself into the low 9s, maybe high 8s. So, but turbo, all that stuff, again, that's all going to be Hail Mary stuff at the end of the year if I have time and have money. We'll see. weight reduction stuff. So obviously all the front suspension components are super heavy on these things, all cast iron stuff. I can go to some aluminum stuff or some tube stuff to be able to make it a little bit lighter. Drivability and safety stuff, maybe put a better dash into it to kind of cover up some of the wiring and be able to make the gauges a little more, I guess, pop a little bit. Have like a light shroud over them so you can see them a little better. And then also locking dipstick. Axles, I think, is a safety thing. Once you get into the 10s, you have to switch over to aftermarket axles and some other things that I have on here. So that's kind of the plan for the S10. Like I said, it was going to be a quick overview for this one, just to kind of get it done and kind of tell you guys the overall plan for this thing. It's gonna be a lot of work. Obviously I'll make videos on doing it all. First thing is going to be building the cage, because that's going to set me up for a lot of what I want to do inside the vehicle. So all of the steering column, the seats, everything major on the inside is all based off of getting the cage in there. And that's also going to take me the most amount of time. So I kind of want to do that right off the bat. Sorry it's kind of taking me so long. I know I've kind of been teasing this on Instagram, getting this video out. It's just been kind of a lot of work with my normal job and how busy it is and all that other stuff, all the holiday stuff, trying to get through all of it. But now that I'm through all of it, it's headlong into this. If you guys wouldn't mind following me on Instagram, Motivated Motorsports on Instagram, follow me there. I'll probably do some teasers on what I'm doing before I actually make the video and pop it up, so if you guys are interested in what I'm doing. You guys can get it there. I sometimes throw in some extra stuff here and there, just kind of some tidbits. See you guys on the next video. Thanks for watching.